River City Podcast Federation.
Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sara Jones. This is another fixture in our Minisode series where you tell me your ghost stories. For this Minisode, I got to talk to a listener named Joe, who described to me a chilling experience he had on an Indian reservation in New Mexico. His experiences involved mysterious and terrifying creatures known as Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are creatures that come from Navajo culture, and they are thought to be a type of harmful witch who can take on the form of various animals. Here's the call. I hope you love it.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, is this Joe?
Yes, this is Joe.
Hi, Joe. It's Sara Jones.
Hi, Sarah. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain.
Good. So do you have a ghost story for me?
Yes, I do, actually.
Awesome. Well, before we get into it, why don't you tell us your name? We know your name is Joe, but
Yes.
something about yourself. Just introduce yourself to listeners.
Oh, okay. So, my name is Joe.
Yes.
And I am from Albuquerque, New Mexico originally.
Okay.
Moved to Portland back in October. And my whole life really things have just been kind of surrounding me as far as the paranormal. It feels like actually up into my early 20s. Not so much nowadays, but it seems like I've always had some kind of paranormal experience for almost every year that I've been alive.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So walk us through some of the best ones.
Okay. So, well, as far back as I can remember when I was younger, my parents are originally from Connecticut, my family. We moved to Albuquerque when I was 3. And ever since I can remember living in the house that I lived in growing up, there was always weird things going on. The first thing I can remember was hearing voices in other rooms and going to the rooms thinking it was my parents and nobody was there. I would usually later on find out that they were outside or something like that, and I was in the house alone. We would also find the doors would lock on their own. We would hear footsteps in the halls quite a few times. Just things like that would be going on. Lights on and off, doors opening and closing. Just kind of those basic things going on there. I'm trying to think here. What would be a good one to tell you? I do have another story, a longer story, I suppose, of being basically stranded on the Isleta Reservation at night. I live not too far away from the Isleta Reservation, and there's always kind of things going on there as well, and there's a lot of things that nobody really talks about, but it's kind of known that strange things happen at night on the reservation. A lot of people that live there don't like to go out at night or do not go out at night whatsoever. And yeah, I could walk you through that story if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
This happened to me, I want to say when I was about 18. I'm 28 years old now, so this was about 10 years ago when I was about 18, 19 years old.
Okay.
In the area that we lived in, so we actually lived in a place called Peralta, not Albuquerque, but Peralta.
Okay.
And that's just outside the Isleta Reservation. And my cousin and his friend, my cousin's name, I'll call him R, and his friend Lee. Lee lived on the reservation, and he knew where all the great fishing spots were. He knew where to go for all those things.
Nice.
Hunting, fishing, things like that. And so one day I get a call, and my cousin R and Lee are out at this fishing spot by the Rio Grande River. And they say, hey, come on down. We've got, like, the fish are good, whatever. We've got some hot dogs. We got a little grill. Come on out. And I'm like, okay, it's about 6 o'clock this summertime, so there's still a lot of light out. And they say, go down these dirt roads here, just take a left here, take a right here. Say, okay. So I get in, what I'm driving at the time is a 1984 Suzuki Samurai, somewhere around there. So with the Suzuki Samurai, what it is, it's kind of like a small little Jeep, for those that are familiar with it. In the summertime, I would take the doors off and I would take the rag top off. So it was nice to go drive around it. I go down these little dirt roads here, and it's far away off from the main road. There's only a couple roads to get in and out. And I finally get to the one road that leads to the fishing spot, and it's literally just one little trail, really. It's not even a road. It's just kind of a little trail, just barely good enough for me to get my Suzuki Samurai down to right where the fishing spot is.
Mm-hmm.
So I pull up, and no problems getting there. And the two guys are sitting there, my cousin and Lee, and they're having a good time, and we're fishing, joking around, whatever. And, I say, well, they say we need to go back and get more bait or something. We're going to stay out here a little bit longer. I go, okay, so where's your guys' car? And Lee and my cousin R go, oh, we didn't drive. We just walked down here. Now, I guess Lee lives about like 5 miles away or something. They walked 5 miles to get to this fishing spot. They were hoping on me to go down there to pick them up, basically, and get more bait, things like that. So I go, okay, let's jump in my car. I'll drive you guys back, and we'll come back to the fishing spot here. So we get in my car, and the sun is starting to set, but we would have enough time to come back and fish for a little bit longer.
Okay.
I turn the Jeep around, or turn the Suzuki Samurai around. I start to go on the path that I originally came in, the one-way path, right?
Yeah.
And as I'm going, there's a huge, like, black mass in the middle of this path. And I didn't see it before when I drove in, so I thought, well, maybe that was already there. Maybe I just, whatever this is, maybe it's a big patch of grass or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And we're far enough away from any neighborhoods and anything like that, so I just assumed that it was just this big thing that I drove over that, I don't know. So I went to just drive over it again, and just as I drive over it, I hear Lee in the back going, stop, 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 stop. And as he's saying that, I just hear this just crunch noise, just...
Oh.
The Jeep comes to a dead stop. And I'm like, okay, why is it not... It doesn't want to go anywhere. I put it in first. It doesn't want to go forward. I put it in reverse. It doesn't go backwards. Nothing like that. So we jump out and we look under the Suzuki, and there's a huge mattress, like the springs from a spring mattress, wrapped up around my drivetrain.
Weird.
Yeah, and it wasn't there before. We didn't see anybody else walking around where we were. Nobody came up and talked to us about fishing or anything like that while we were there. And so we don't know how this big spring mattress thing got there in the middle of the road. So we're looking at it. We're trying to tug on it. We're trying to pull on it. And we're going, we can't get this thing off. We don't know where this came from, what's going on. And Lee's starting to get he's getting a little nervous, it sounds like. Now, I'd known Lee for about 2 months maybe. Talked to him. Him and my cousin worked together at this restaurant that I frequented. I knew him fairly well. And he always seemed like a pretty easygoing guy and pretty upbeat about things, and not much really got him down. And I could tell he started to get a little nervous when this happened, and I wasn't too sure why exactly, but I thought, okay, we'll just walk back to your house, we'll grab some tools, and we'll figure this out,
Yeah.
And so Lee's like, okay, we gotta run back to the house. And so we start walking back, and Lee's like, we're not gonna go on these trails though. We have to cut through the woods here. This will be faster. I know a shortcut, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go, okay. So we start walking, and as we're walking, the sun is setting a little bit more. And as I'm walking, I can see enough through the trees that I'm seeing what looks like flashlights or lanterns or something. I don't really know. I can't tell what it is. But as we're walking, Lee's trying to like make jokes and be lighthearted. And I finally asked him, I said, Lee, like, is there somebody out here with us walking by us or walking around us, or what are those lights that I'm seeing? What's going on? And he's kind of like, oh man, don't worry about those. Don't even think about it.
What?
Don't worry about it. Yeah. And I go, okay, all right, fine, man. Like, if that's what you say, you know, like, I just won't worry about it. And, you know, we're still walking through this forest here, and every once in a while I'll still see these lights off in the distance, like kind of start behind trees and things. And we finally come out to a ditch bank, and we start walking up the ditch bank there. And as we're walking, Lee kind of starts saying something about, you know, be careful of this ditch. We really have to stick together here. My dad once saw something here that he had to outrun or something like that.
Oh.
And yeah, and you know, I'm going, what are you talking about? What do you mean you had to outrun? And now I guess on some reservations, or most, from what I know, there's such a thing called Skinwalkers. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Skinwalkers?
anything called Skinwalkers. Yeah.
I don't think so, no.
So what Skinwalkers are supposed to be basically are humans that can shapeshift into, or supposedly, quote unquote, shapeshift into animals or things like that.
Oh, okay.
I guess they're supposed to be kind of like, you know, like people that mess with supposedly dark magic in Native American culture.
Yeah.
And they're treated very real, and they're not to be taken lightly, of course. And they're just people that you're not supposed to mess with.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, you know, my dad was on this ditch bank, the same one that we're walking on, and he said he once saw something here. So we just got to be careful around this area. And I'm like, okay. And the sun is it's getting darker and darker out. The sun is setting really fast. And I'm like, okay, so are we almost to your house, Lee? He's like, yeah, just another, you know, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And as we're walking, we cross over this little bridge, and Lee's starting to get like a lot, like really lighthearted and things like that. And he's going like, oh, well, like making all these jokes and things. And next thing I know, we come up to, there's this one tree before we hit this field of like farmland, basically. And there's just one big tree, and there's one big branch on it. And out of nowhere, Lee just says something about, like, I don't know what he said. How did he say? It was something along the lines of like, last one to the other side of the road is a rotten egg or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And he just books it, like running for his life almost. Now, I don't know exactly why he did that, but me and my cousin R just took off after him. He just booked it out of nowhere. And as we run into this tree, I see this like big hunch, like a big knot on the tree, but it was too big to be just this knot on the tree. It was this big thing like sitting in the tree. Mm-hmm. And I never got a good look at it. I was a little too scared to look up because, like I said, the sun was getting darker, or it was getting darker outside. And there's just this big thing. It was too big to be a bird. We don't have like bears or anything in that area.
How big was it? Was like the size of a human, is what you're saying?
It was like yeah, exactly. It was the size of a human, from what I remember. But like I said, I didn't get a good look at it. It was just this big, like, shadowy thing. But anyway, so we have to run under this thing.
Oh, no.
And Leroy runs off under it. I run, like, we're all just running. We get to the other side of the road. And so we sneak through this farmland here. And we get to Lee's house. And so Lee is like, okay, guys, sit in my truck real quick. I'm going to run in and grab some tools. Like, okay. And me and my cousin are sitting in his truck. And from inside, we can hear his dad, like, yelling at him. And I still don't remember exactly what they were saying. They were just yelling. There was something going on. And it sounded like his dad was pretty mad we were going back out tonight. It sounded like he didn't want us to go out there, like we shouldn't be out there, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so Lee runs back to the truck. He throws like a couple tools in the back, jumps in the truck, starts it, and takes off. real quick. And we were going, is everything okay? Did you and your dad just get in an argument? What's going on? He said, and he's going again, oh no, we're fine. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Everything's good. Don't worry. And so we finally get back to where my Suzuki is, and he jumps out of the car real quick, grabs some pliers, some like cutters and things like that, and like, okay guys, like let's go, let's do this, let's. And he's being real frantic now. He's gotten to the point where he's just like going crazy and running all over around the Jeep, around the Suzuki, trying to cut the thing off from under the drivetrain. We're yanking on it, we're pulling on it.
And this is your buddy, or this is his dad?
This is my buddy. This is my buddy. His dad stayed at home, but this is my buddy Lee and my cousin R.
Okay, yeah.
Trying to help me with this thing, trying to get the Suzuki out of away from the river, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
And trying to get the mattress off from under the drivetrain.
Okay.
And so at one point we're all sitting there, he's got his lights turned on the Suzuki so we can see everything that we're working on. And just suddenly, I don't know what it was, but it just suddenly sounded incredibly quiet around us. Like there were no animals. You couldn't hear the crickets. You couldn't hear the frogs. You couldn't hear anything. And we all just kind of stopped and looked at each other, and Lee like stands up and like looks around out through the forest, and he's just standing there like dead silent. And he just starts going, we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta get this thing done. We gotta get this thing done. And I don't remember what it just changed his whole like demeanor of like being lighthearted and happy-go-lucky and everything. Like he just got really panicked and really like, we have to get the hell out of here. Like it was crazy. And I feel like I've never experienced this before in my life. But that silence in the forest, just not hearing anything. And then suddenly, like, it sounded like I could hear people around us.
Oh.
And it just seemed to come from all angles. I don't know where exactly it was, but it sounded like there's whispering or, like, just, like, or, like, breathing. I don't know. It was the weirdest sound I'd ever heard. And I kind of looked at my cousin R, and R like was looking at me real wide-eyed, like, yeah, I hear it too. But I didn't say anything. And Lee grabbed, he was using the cutters on this mattress thing, and he handed them to, and he says, here, hold these. And R has them in his hands, and I watched him, and he did it. He put them down right next to him, but like a little behind him, right?
Yeah.
And then he turns back around. I'm looking at Lee, and Lee goes, oh wait, I need those cutters back. My cousin R turns around to grab the cutters, and they're not there.
Whoa.
They're just straight not there anymore.
No,
and they were less than 3 feet away from us. And we're all sitting there going, where did they go? What's going on? Like, what happened? Where are these cutters? We need these cutters. And we just couldn't find them. It sounded like the whispering is getting more and more intense. I can hear these like weird voices going on. I can still see the lights in the forest, like moving
it sounded
around
like
us.
Whispering?
Yeah, it sounded like whispering. Like there was a weird, strange little whispering going on around us.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, it was dead silent out. There's no wind. There's nothing going on. Like I said, no frogs, no crickets, nothing. Just this weird whispering sound almost, and these lights kind of like circling around us in the distance in these trees. And by this time, the sun has like fully set, right? So we're out there in the dark, like doing all this. And so R puts the cutters down, can't find him now. And Lee just loses his mind, and he just starts yelling about F these things, they're just trying to get us, F this, F that, you people are horrible, or something like that. And he's just yelling about and now, like I said, this whole trip, he'd been just really happy-go-lucky, like, oh, don't worry, guys, we're going to be fine. As soon as it seemed like nothing was going to work out, he just lost his mind and started yelling things. So, I guess we had cut enough to get like a little bit of a hole or something in this mattress, spring mattress thing. He just yanked the whole thing out of there. I've never seen anyone do something like that. It seemed like he was running on pure fear of he just yanked this whole mattress thing out from under my drivetrain.
Yeah.
He grabs it out from under, throws it away, and then just kind of goes, he picks up the tools and goes, okay, guys, see you later. Jumps in his car and takes off.
Whoa.
Or in his truck and just takes off and leaves us there. Now, I hadn't even gotten in my vehicle yet or found my keys or anything. I wasn't even in the vehicle yet, and he was already gone. Just out. And so luckily I was able to get my car started and everything was fine, and me and my cousin R drove off. And it was like, okay, like I guess that was it. And we just stayed silent the whole drive home. And by the time I got to R's house, I looked at him and I said, did that all just happen? Like, did you see those lights? Did you see those things too? And he was like, yeah, I was very aware of what was happening. And now my cousin R is not somebody that's into the paranormal completely, but for him to say, like, I heard voices and I heard, like, to say he was hearing everything that I was hearing and to not understand, like, where the cutters went after he had just put them down, like, a minute ago was pretty incredible, because he's not the type of person to admit to things like that.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, no, I definitely heard whispers. I definitely saw the lights. I didn't know you know what I mean? So it was all very surreal. And this was 10 years ago. I never saw Lee again after that. I never hung out with him again after that. Yeah, I only, it was my cousin. I still see him because we're family, but like never really heard from him again after that day.
Did you try to reach out to him and he just didn't want anything to do with you, or what? Like,
I didn't reach out to him, but I would ask my cousin about him, and I'd say, have you seen him lately? And he would see him at work every once in a while, but I think Lee left for another job or something like that shortly after. So my cousin still wouldn't even like go see him, my cousin still didn't even see him after that. Mm-hmm. And he was the one that was more friends with him than me, but yeah, he just kind of disappeared. Like after that night, just kind of, I don't know, just never hung out with us again.
And he was the one who knew about that spot too, right?
Yes.
So it's almost like he knew what to expect and he wanted to check it out. And then
right. So I think what it was that they were just out there fishing and they had walked there. And so I was the only one with the car. So I got there and he said, we still have some daylight left. Like, let's take your car back to my house, grab some more bait, whatever, and we'll come back and we'll still have some more time. But this whole, I think he expected to be out of that place by the time, it was dark.
Yeah.
But all this just took up way too much time, and we were out there by the river at night, which I later found out is definitely, aside from the experience I had, I later found out, so I had another friend that lived on the reservation, and I kind of asked him about it, and I said, hey, what was going on with this, that, and the other, and he said the same thing, and he goes, don't worry about it, don't talk about it, don't think about it. He says, just don't ever go down to the river again at night, He says, don't ever do it. I was like, well, why don't you go down to the river at night? He's like, it's just not a good place to be. Just nobody goes down there at night. You stay indoors at night when you're on the reservation. You just don't do it. And so, that to me was pretty, finding out after the fact from another person that wasn't even there.
Does he even know? Does he even know Lee?
No. No, he had no idea. He didn't know Lee at all. This other friend was just somebody that I had known for quite a while, since first grade, actually. So I trusted him even more than Lee. But for him to say, after I told him my experience, he got really I'll never go down there again. Don't go, you don't want to be messing with anything down there. Stay away from that area at night. Blah, blah, blah. So when I mentioned the lights and things and the whispering and all that stuff, he kind of got the same way as Lee, being oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Nothing to worry about, but don't go down there again,
Interesting. And so this was all in New Mexico, right?
Yes, this is all in New Mexico.
Wow. It seems I wonder if it's just weird that both of them reacted so similarly. I wonder if they were told to act that way about it.
I think so. I think that's kind of one of the things is it's kind of one of those things like don't give it the energy that it wants.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's like act
yeah.
happy so that you're not feeding into it.
Right, exactly.
Oh.
So I guess the best thing that I can compare it to, this might sound a little strange, but it's like, you know how they say, I guess, horses can sense your fear or something like that, or animals can sense your fear. Animals can sense, like, if you're afraid of them. Well, that's what I kind of can compare it to in my mind is if you are giving them the reaction you want, that only makes them do things more. You know, it only makes them mess with you more,
like
whatever these things are. Or right, exactly.
Wow, that is really, really awesome. I mean, that's scary as hell, but really cool.
It's like one of those things you kind of grow up hearing stories about things in that area, and you just never really know if it's going to happen to you. And then like something like that finally does, where it's like, you know, we were like, I don't know if we were in danger or not, but a very surreal, like, wow, that really happened. Like, I was able to experience something that actually has been talked about or I've been told about before, with lights and things like that, lights and whispering and all that. And then, I don't know, I do have another one, not as long as that.
Okay.
If you wanted to hear it, that also goes along with the reservation thing. It also involves the Suzuki Samurai that I was in.
It involves what?
The Suzuki Samurai, the car that I was driving that night.
Okay.
Yeah, that same car. So, now, like I said just now, I had talked to another friend about my experience, and he told me, we're going to call him, we'll call him Brandon.
Okay.
So Brandon, lived on the reservation as well, and he was the one that said, okay, don't go back to the river at night. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Now, Brandon, I've known since first grade.
Mm-hmm.
And, growing, like, I basically grew up in his house as well, along with his family and stuff. They lived up on top of a hill on the reservation, and his parents would go out at night and go to dinner and things. And whenever I slept over, his mom would always tell us, make sure the doors are locked when you leave. Make sure nobody's coming around. If anybody comes around on our property, like, call the police immediately and call us and blah, blah, blah. When I would sleep over, stay the night, it was just me and him. A lot of times their motion sensor lights on the front of their house would go off, and an alarm would go off if somebody was coming into the driveway. Like if it was, if they were expecting company and a car came into the driveway or something, there was an alarm that went off to let them know somebody was there. Many times growing up, those alarms would go off and those lights would go off, and I would look outside and say like, oh, your parents are here. Your parents are back from dinner. Mm-hmm. And he would know that it wasn't them yet because they hadn't called him yet. So this was around the time we had cell phones. I think he had a cell phone long, like before I did. His parents gave him a cell phone when he was like 13, something like that. And, I never got one until I was like, could pay for it on my own when I was 18, but that's beside the point. But anyway, he knew when his parents were coming home because they would let him know they were coming home. Now, if the alarms and the light sensors went off before he got that text, he knew that it wasn't them. So I'd say, oh, your parents are coming home. And I would go look out the window for him. Mm-hmm. And he would say, oh, no, that's not my parents. And I would look out the window and there's like nothing out there. And I'd say, well, why are the alarms going off? Why are the lights going off? He just wouldn't even go to the window. He wouldn't go to the door, wouldn't go out, look outside the window, nothing. And he would just say, oh, just probably a dog, probably a rabbit, probably a this, probably that.
Yeah.
I never saw a dog, never saw a rabbit, no, of course, yeah, maybe it could have been, but for the alarm to go off like it was a car passing by or something like that, for everything to be set off, I feel like it would have had to have been a bigger something, to set all those things off. Yeah. And they didn't have dogs, they didn't have animals, they didn't keep pets. So it was just kind of strange that all that happened, thinking about it later on. Now there was one night when I got old enough to drive, and it's the same house. I was over at their house late at night, and I was there for dinner or something, and it was around like 11 o'clock at night. And I said, okay, guys, well, I have to get back home. And his parents are like, well, no, don't you want to stay here? Don't you want to stay stay overnight tonight? And, you know, I'm like 18, 19 again. And I'm like, no, I'll be fine. I can drive. Like, I'll go home and that'll be fine. And they're really being like, well, no, I think you should stay. You sure you don't want to stay? You don't want to stay here? And
Well,
I'm
had
like,
you
no,
been
that's
like,
fine.
were you drinking or something?
No, not at all. I wasn't old enough to drink, and they weren't people to drink. They didn't. I think I'd maybe seen my friend Brandon's dad maybe have a beer in the time that I've known him, you know, and I've known this family since I was in first grade.
Wow.
And yeah, they weren't the type of people to drink or anything like that. So they were being really like, you know, why don't you stay here? Why don't you stay here? And I politely declined and was like, no, thank you guys so much, but I do have to get home. And they were kind of like, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, then you can go ahead. Like, we can't stop you, you know. I said, okay, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And have a good night, you guys, you know.
Yeah.
And so I go outside and I get in the Samurai, the Suzuki Samurai there. And it has the doors off and it's got the top down. And so I'm pretty exposed to the elements, I guess, while I'm driving. But it's a nice night out. It's summertime again. And I leave their property and I start heading home. And I don't live too far away from them, maybe like, oh gosh, I want to say maybe like 10 miles away, something like that. And so I'm driving, and their house is up on top of a hill, and it overlooks the old village that's there on the reservation. And so the old village is just all these old houses and buildings and things that have been there since the reservation was built, basically. Mm-hmm. And you're not supposed to go driving through there at night. You can't take pictures during the day. If you go there as a visitor, like a tourist or anything, you're not supposed to take pictures of this place, whatever. I'm driving on the main road, and the village is on my left-hand side. And between me and the village, there's train tracks, because there's a train that runs through. Mm-hmm. And then there's like a little ditch, and then up onto the main road where I'm driving. Now, I'd driven this spot quite a few times. I knew the area fairly well. I knew what to expect when I was out on the road. I know what's there. I know every lamppost, every stop sign, train tracks, all those things. As I'm driving, I see this thing standing in this little ditch bank there between the road and the village. Or, well, I should say between the road and the train tracks. And there's the village there. And I'm getting closer and closer, and I realize it's not a stop sign. It's not like a light post. It's too small to be a light post. It's not a telephone line. Too small to be a telephone line. I don't know what this thing is. It's whatever this is. It's just looks like it's standing there. And so I'm driving, and I'm slowing down to get a good look at it, because I've never seen this before. I don't know what this is. And I'm slowing down. And as I'm slowing down, I realize this thing is about as tall as my car, my Suzuki Samurai. Mm-hmm. And now that's not too impressive considering the Suzuki is pretty small, but the ditch bank, you know, adds some depth. So if you're standing in the ditch bank, you should only be up to, like, if you're fairly normal size, let's say you're just 6 foot, mm-hmm. You're probably only going to be up to the door line, the bottom door line of my Suzuki. Yeah. When you're standing in the ditch bank. This thing came above the roof of my Suzuki, standing in the ditch bank, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So it had to have been about, oh gosh, I would say 9-10 feet tall.
Oh my
something
God.
like that, whatever this was. And as I'm driving by, I'm looking at it, and it looks like a scarecrow, but it has its arms outreached, and it's got these weird rags on it, like what is that, like burlap?
Yeah.
Like burlap, like it's got like that all over it, and it's got this like cow skull, or what looked like a cow skull to me, like pointed down, like how people like hang cow skulls on the door or something like that, or hang them up on the wall. But it didn't have like cow horns; it had like antlers. It had these weird, like, I don't even know, like, it is just strange, like these weird, maybe deer antlers or something. Mm-hmm. So it's like really, really long, and it's just, whatever it is, it's just standing there. And I'm slowing down and I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, what is this? I can't tell what it, like, I've never seen this thing in this area before. And I realized I was almost at a full stop by this point while I'm sitting there mesmerized at this thing.
Yeah.
And I finally like kind of snapped out of it and went, why am I slowing down? Why am I driving? I finally hit the gas a little bit and took off. And I was looking back in my rearview mirror and I could still see this thing and it was still standing there. I don't know, like, I call it a thing because when I went back to my friend's house the next day and it wasn't there anymore. It wasn't this, I don't know if somebody put it up there as a prank.
Yeah.
Or what, but I drove by that same exact spot the next day and this thing wasn't there anymore. So if it was a prank, it was a pretty good one. But
yeah.
I don't know if it was real or not. I don't know if it was a big scarecrow that somebody just put there. And I kind of asked my friend about it. And I said, I saw this thing out there. What was that? And he kind of had the same expression of, oh, don't worry about it. Don't think about it. It's fine. It's fine. Like, are you okay? It's fine. Like, it was just really strange. Like, I'd never seen anything like that before. This 9-foot tall cow skull antler with antlers, scarecrow thing. It was just really strange. I've never seen anything like that before. So
sounds so
I don't know what
fucking awesome.
Was. Yeah, it's just really weird. And if you kind of look up, if you look up like Skinwalker photos on Google, I guess, you might see something fairly similar. Because I did that later on, and there's no real like evidence of skinwalkers or anything like that, but artist depictions and things, and the fact that, like, I don't know, I feel like I saw something pretty similar to some artist depictions or what they're described as.
With the cow head, that thing?
With like a cow head, or like like wearing skulls or wearing animal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because like Native Americans did that too, right?
Right, exactly.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been like, that's not its head, it's like part of its headwear.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there's just like the fact that somebody's out walking about like that in the middle of the night. But I still can't explain for how tall it was, whatever this thing was.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a person or what. Like, I never saw facial features or anything. It was just really big. It was a really tall thing. Or person or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was just really strange.
I hope you enjoyed Joe's story about the Skinwalkers. I know I'm going to think twice next time I'm in the woods at night. Do you have a great ghost story? If you or someone you know has a story and wants to be featured on the show, please send your stories to litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. That's litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. We might want to put you on the show. As always, thanks so much for listening.
River City Podcast Federation.